Oh my gosh, why you don't understand anger? I just can't. Hi, everybody. Let's talk about anger and what it is and how it affects us. Anger is a strong feeling of being frustrated or annoyed because of something that you perceive as wrong or bad. Here's the thing, anger is not always bad. It can help us to set up boundaries, meet our needs, or to face challenges. But uncontrolled anger can ruin relationships. So let's talk about where it comes from. Again, you perceive something as wrong or bad. You're frustrated or annoyed. These are natural emotions. But when they snowball out of control, when they get big, when they get to a place where they're going to hurt you, hurt somebody else, either physically or through your words, or through withdrawing, it is anger. The thing I've learned about anger is that anger is always, and I mean always, something else. We have our anger, which is what we show up on the surface. Anger feels powerful, right? Anger says, I will not be walked on. Anger says, I will be heard. The problem with anger is that it pushes people away and that it harms the relationships. But this is what we see on the surface. What's underneath the anger? Sadness, fear, stress, anxiety, hurt, embarrassment. This is where anger comes from. If you insult me, if you say, shut up, you're ugly and you're a bad therapist, I might get angry at you. But what's underneath the anger? Hurt. If you say it in a public forum and I get angry with you, what's underneath the anger? Hurt, but also embarrassment. If my child is chasing a ball towards the street and I yell at them to stop, and then I get in their face and I say, don't you care about your safety? You're so stupid. That's anger. But what's underneath the anger? Fear. I was afraid they were chasing a ball towards the street. I was afraid they were going to get hit by a car. But I express it through anger and it pushes them away. Underneath all anger is a more vulnerable emotion. And we don't like to get vulnerable because it feels scary, because it feels like we could get hurt, because it feels like we're exposing a part of ourselves that's private, secret, shameful in some contexts. Not that vulnerability is shameful, but we've been taught that it is. We've been taught that it's shameful to be raw and real and to have a need or to be afraid or to be hurt. But vulnerability is actually strength. Vulnerability requires courage. And we'll get a bit more into that when we talk about how to manage anger. But recognizing that all anger comes from something else and that we often feel justified in our anger. You may be justified in feeling frustrated. You may be justified in being annoyed. You may be justified in being hurt or embarrassed or scared. Anger, I wouldn't say that you're not justified in feeling anger. Anger just is. It's just an emotion that comes. But the way that we show it, if it's hurtful, if it's vicious, if it's mean, if it's nasty, if it's cruel, no matter what anybody else has done, we have crossed a line where we are sacrificing our better selves to the God of anger, right? We're making that sacrifice and we are just running with that. So how do we deal with anger when it arises? How can we express ourselves in a way that protects us? How can we express ourselves in a way that draws a firm boundary? How can we express ourselves in a way that we get our needs met while still drawing other people close instead of pushing them away? That's what we're going to talk about in our next video. We'll see you there.